anyone who knows my work knows that I'm a portrait photographer. I love the look of hand-painted canvas backdrops. The only downside of them is storing them. They're expensive, and once I've used them for a while, I kind of want to change it up and try something else. So what do we do in that situation? Well, the latest build of Optics 2026.5 has a feature built into S-Grunge to help photographers do exactly that. Get more life out of your hand-painted drops with no AI. My name's Renee Robyn, and I'm the Optics Product Manager. All right, let's go into Photoshop and let's get this moving. So we're going to duplicate our layer and convert it to a smart object. We're gonna go Filter, Boris Effects, Optics. Apply previous filters and masks, we're definitely gonna say no. I'm gonna go down to Portraits, and we have slammed S-Grunge into Portraits. You're going to see the original defaults here, and they're not gonna make much sense. But I promise you this is all gonna work out. I'm gonna show you how to get really great results with S-Grunge as quickly as possible. Right here on the left-hand side, these are all of the presets. There's tons of them. Heads up, I am in the default workspace for Optics 2026.5. And in order to see these updates, you're going to need to be on Optics 2026.5. We're gonna scroll down. There's a ton of new presets in here. We're gonna scroll all the way down to the bottom. I'm gonna grab the 70s called. A bunch of these presets here, a bunch of these new stamps. This is a way to upgrade your drops without using AI. Right now, this is what this looks like. This is what the preset looks like. One of the most important sliders is right here in the parameters on the right-hand side. There's going to be a seed slider, and we're just going to move this seed slider, and you can see how this is changing. We can pick any number of these. Let's grab Wedding Bouquet, we can grab this one and just hit the seed slider. And I'm hoping that you're kind of starting to see a little bit of what I'm talking about here. We go to Olive Urbex and we hit the seed slider. I'm hoping you're picking up what I'm throwing down here, and you're gonna see what's gonna be awesome here in a second. First things first, we gotta easy mask this. I'm going to grab the drop down here on the bottom right-hand corner. We're gonna hit easy mask. And if you want a more in-depth tutorial on easy mask, you can watch the video here if you hover, or you can watch the video that I'm going to link in the description below, which is a little bit of an easy mask masterclass. All right, easy mask. We are going to put this on the background only, but just this one background. So I'm left mouse click buttoning to get the green lines, and I'm right mouse click buttoning to get the red. The red is where I don't want it. So I don't want it on any of this. I don't want it on the chair. I don't want it on her. I definitely don't want it in her hair. Let's just quickly do this like so. Here. Let's see what this does. Enter. There we go. Now if we hit M on the keyboard, we can see exactly where we're missing. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. You'll see why in a second. All right, let's hit M again. Right now, the masking is very approximate. And of course, if we were going to print this or we were going to send this into competition, I would spend a lot more time on this, but I'm just trying to explain the concept here to make this nice and easy for you. We are going to go into the right-hand side here where all these sliders are. We're going to scroll way down to the bottom, and there's going to be a little button here called Combine. So right now it's set to comp. This is your blending mode of the layer itself. What we can do here is we can set this to overlay, we can set this to screen, we could set this to, in my preference here is soft light. I think soft light is very pretty for this, especially for this environment. Again, this is image dependent, so you can decide which blending mode you want to use on your image. The next thing we can do here is if we hit this drop down where it says blur grunge. This part's very important because if you had taken this portrait at like say f1.2, the background is going to be very soft. So we want to make sure that you can blur the grunge, blur this texture to match the environment that you're putting it into. The next one above that is the emboss bumps. So this tool comes from motion graphics, like most of the things in optics. And motion graphics guys, they love their emboss texture. They love it. But photographers, we don't. Depending on the preset that you're in there, always look for the emboss bumps, turn that to 0. I'm gonna open up Stamp 3 Details just above emboss, right over here. We're just gonna open that drop down and we're gonna deal with that in a second. Let's scroll all the way to the top. We could legitimately stop here and we could be happy. We could just hit the seed slider and just pick it and be happy with exactly what that looks like. Awesome. But let's show you just a little bit more to get you going here. We can adjust the stamp density. So let's turn up, first of all, the stamp opacity. Let's turn this all the way up. Because we're on a soft light blending mode, this is going to be a little bit harder to see, which is fine. That's kind of what I'm going for. I want to add texture. I don't want it to be like overwhelming. So we can turn this down all the way to 0, and we can just like slowly start bringing in these stamps. And we can make this very subtle if we want to. We can also increase this and make it extremely dense if we want. I prefer a lighter touch, at least for this image. I think it's going to look better with a more gentle touch. But you can also adjust the stamp size. So you see how they're getting bigger and smaller. Watch how those flowers grow. We can also adjust the stamp brightness right here, which is different from stamp opacity. The other thing that we can do, depending on the preset, you can adjust this here. What this is doing is this is basically just creating a frame, so like an oval where there are fewer stamps. This is totally up to you. I mean, all these sliders are up to you. Now let's have just a little bit of fun and let's make this nice and quick and easy. This is Stamp 1 Details. So this stamp is called Paper Sponges. If we open this up, we can see all of these different types of stamps that are in here. There's tons of them. We made a whole bunch of them for this update, specifically with photographers in mind. I'm gonna switch paper sponges to large sponges just to see what happens. This is where the fun part comes in. I'm gonna grab this eyedropper. See how it says Stamp 1 Color and Stamp 1 Color 2. I'm gonna grab the eyedropper and I'm gonna select colors from her skin. Maybe that's a little bit too bright. Let's try something a little bit softer. There we go. And let's grab Stamp 2 Color. Let's grab something from her hair back there. Awesome. And now we can turn down the density of these stamps of the large sponges. We can turn this all the way up or we can turn this all the way down. I could also, if I wanted to, I could match them to the canvas drop that they're already on. So I could sample these colors from here and make this even more subtle. So if I turn this on and off, it looks like so. And to be honest, actually selecting colors from the drop in this case looks a lot nicer in my opinion. Stylized blooms, these are the flowers. I'm definitely going to pick colors from her skin for this one. See how nicely this harmonizes? Let's grab another one right here. There we go. That's looking very nice. And I can turn down the opacity of the flowers independently if I want to. So I could make the flowers almost go away and I could also make them quite dominant. I'm gonna keep them nice and subtle. Stamp 3 Details, we have more large sponges. What if we change this to, let's try Decaying Damask. I love me a good damask texture. Let's grab some colors, grabbing these eyedroppers. Let's grab something from the chair. Let's grab another one from the chair and let's see what that looks like. And I can adjust how much or how little I want of these damask textures in here. Although to be honest, I find maybe they're a little distracting. Maybe I chose the wrong one. Let's go to hand painted. That's better. I like that more. That's a little too much red for me. Let's grab some of this blue. So that is pretty much it. This is pretty much how it works. This is the simplest way we can do this. And again, we can adjust the seed slider if we want to and just move this around a little bit more. So I can go Control Z and get the last placement that I had. Again, depending on how many times you click. So let's say we like this one and we want to put it on the other drop here on the right-hand side. My suggestion, the easiest way to do this is to right-click and duplicate your layer if you want them to harmonize. You don't necessarily have to have them harmonize, but in this case for today, we're going to. So I'm going to say duplicate the layer. I'm going to delete down here on the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to hit the drop down, hit delete mask, and I'm going to create a new easy mask. This time I'm only going to left mouse click button it onto this backdrop, and I'm going to right mouse click button it everywhere else because I don't want it on anywhere else in the shot. I'm going to hit enter. And now to change this up so it doesn't look like it's one texture bleeding across everything, I'm just going to hit the seed slider. And I could also take the stamp density down, make it more subtle, and hit the seed slider one more time and just see where we wind up. I like that, just like that little touch of flower in the corner there is quite lovely. And now let's do the floor. So we're going to right click, duplicate the layer when we're on the layer stack on the bottom right hand corner. We're going to delete the mask. We're going to create a new easy mask. We're going to put it on the floor, but we are going to take it off of the chair and everything else. Definitely off of her feet and off of this, and just like that. Now what we have to do, because otherwise this looks like a texture that's just laying flat over top of everything, we want to make sure that we're hitting the seed slider again. Until we find something that we like. The other thing I could do, actually, you know what? I like that though. That's quite nice. I like subtle. I don't necessarily like really heavy-handed textures. What I might do is change the stylized blooms. Let's click on this guy here. Let's try liquid lino. Let's see what that does. That's a lot. That is a lot. Okay, let's not do liquid lino. Let's try moon dust, question mark. I could do stars. I have stars, by the way. The stars are very fun. We could make all kinds of star textures if we wanted to. Those stars don't really vibe with this. Let's do spray paint. Ah, there we go. That's what we're looking for. Now let's hit that seed slider one more time. Hit the stamp size. Actually, let's just change these colors entirely. Let's make these match what's going on down here. Let's take these nice dark colors. There. We want these ones up here to match what's going on with the hair, and the floor to not necessarily be jumping out at us. Let's go up here to the top of this bar up here. Let's hit this little button here. This is going to turn off the overlays so I can see exactly what's going on. And I can go before and after by hitting Alt-A comparison. So very quickly, you can increase the life of your hand-painted backdrops by using all of these beautiful drop downs here, and there's so many of them to play with. I'm going to do a longer, more involved course on this, but this is basically just to get you going. Now we're gonna hit apply, and there we have it. Our before and after. And remember, because we're working with a smart object, if we want to, we can always go back in and change this. We can double click on optics, and it'll say apply previous filters and masks. We're going to say yes. The other thing we can do is, let's say we have an entire series of this that we're working on, we can save this as a look. We can save all of these as a look, or we can save one individual preset as a preset that's going to show up in the S-Grunge category for yourself. So first, let's do a look. We're gonna go File, Save Setup, Grunge, Floral. Save, File, Import, Grunge, Floral. There we go. Replace or add to existing looks, we always wanna say add. And now this is going to show up in your Looks tab with Grunge Floral. Heads up, when you're doing this on different images, you're obviously going to have to redo the easy mask because she's not a product, therefore she's probably going to move, and so is your camera. The other thing we can do is save this as a particular preset. So let's say this first one here we really like. We'll turn off the visibility here. This one that's just behind her, let's pretend that we really love this and we love the colors and we want to be able to use this more. This is a single layer preset. This is not going to save the entire stack. We're just going to hit this little piece of paper here on the right-hand corner, right underneath the histogram. We're going to click that. We're going to call this guy Grunge Floral Pink, and we're going to hit OK. And now this is going to show up in my presets here on the left-hand side under S-Grunge. In Portraits, we hit S-Grunge, and this will be saved alphabetically. So when you first save it, it saves at the bottom of the list, but then when you refresh Grunge, it's going to load it alphabetically. And that is it. And that's why it's very fun. We're going to hit Apply. And that's it. I'm going to do a much longer, far more involved S-Grunge course for those of you who are interested in learning how to really push this tool to its maximum. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any requests for future tutorials or maybe some future stamp ideas, please let me know in the comments.